they have to say about this model. This is the Pontiac Fiero Dole Pineapple Race Car, IMSA number 84, driven by Clay Young. Now, the information they have is product timeline. Let's take a look at the full history of this kit, or this particular line of models. Now, here you can see the GTP car, of which I do have one, which I haven't built yet. And it is labeled starter, just like mine. Now, I can't tell you much about the history of this kit. They had to be from the early 80s. Here you can see the unpainted car and the finished product. Then they have a few other variations of this kit, which I've never seen. This is an 88 GT model, it looks like. I've never actually seen this one, but they do have it pictured here. And they also have a pace car version, which is basically the same as the 85 GT that I had on the previous video. Well, the pace car version looks to be the only difference between the two are the wheels and the intake scoop. Let's see if we can get a better look at that. The intake scoop on the rear deck lid, as this is the Indianapolis 500 pace car. A little information about that kit. The information is pretty much the same between all of them. Now, I do know these kits are from France, but that's about all I know about these kits. But here we have the entire timeline of these kits. They're all resin. All seem to be based on the same original tooling, except for the IMSA car. So that's just an interesting little tidbit on this model. That's a Dole pineapple car. Let's take a look and see what it's. Let's take a look at the full history again. Out of just curious about something here. Let's take a look here. Yep, it is the same. The Pontiac Fiero GT Huffaker race car. IMSA 84, same model, 1/43rd scale. Alright, so now that we've seen a little bit of the history, let's move on to the build itself. Okay, here we have what went for an instruction sheet that came with this kit. It's basically decal placement to show you where all the decals belong, and it's quite an intensive kit as far as decals go. Just as in the previous model, the chassis and the interior tub are all one part. Here I've done a bit of detailing in it, painting it up, trying to make it match the photographs I found of this car as close as possible. The interior consisted just of the instrument cluster, the pedal assembly, and the seats and the shifter. As it's very sparse, it's just a race car, so there's not really much there. I painted the interior with a flat Tamiya white, as the pictures of the cars that I found showed a white interior, and the dashboard is a chrome silver, so I did that with the Molotow pen. Okay, now it's time to get started working on the body. As you can see, if you look really closely, there is a bar in the driver's door window. That's part of the safety cage around the driver. Now, unfortunately, the model didn't bring the entire safety cage. So what I did was I cut a little bit of a styrene rod, and with some reference photos, decided to make my own cage inside the body of the car. Now let's take a look at these wheels. Now these are pretty nice representations of the Centerline wheels that were used, at least I think they were made by Centerline, that were used on the race car. All I had to do was to paint the open areas of the wheels dark, and that pretty much took care of everything. The tires themselves are also pretty nice, wide, meaty tires that just fit the car properly. Now here I'm test fitting the chassis as I want to make sure I'm not going to have the same issues I had with the previous kit where one side of the car sat higher than the other. And this one seems to sit perfectly straight. The only bit of extra detail I added apart from the paint was to put a throttle cable going from the shifter all the way back to the firewall. Okay, now we've got a bunch of the details being added to the body. You can see I've added the safety netting which came with the kit, a nice little touch in a kit like this. And then all the black trim around the windows. More of the details I added, you can see that all of the panel lines have been darkened in, and we have the completed and finished crash bars inside the body. You can see inside the passenger door there. Now comes the fun part, applying all those decals to the body. Everything is that you see in color on the body is a decal, from the yellow trim to all the red writing. Now for the decals, what I had to do was create my own, as the decals that came with the kit were well over 30 years old and there's no way that they were going to work. So I printed out a new batch of decals on my computer and we're ready to go. And here we have our finished product. It came out really nice, as you can see in all the photographs. The decals laid perfectly using quite a bit of decal solvent, and it just looks really good. This is my personal favorite of the 1/43rd scale cars that I own, and I don't think that's ever going to change. Now the windshield to this car was lost long ago, so I just took a little piece of clear styrene and made my own windshield. Now you can see all of the decals, every decal that's on the car is represented very well here. The scans I made came out really nice off of the computer and matched everything on the car perfectly. Apart from the wheels, the air cleaner assembly was the only other metal part in the kit. I'm not sure if this is right or wrong, but the only place the decals didn't reach was around and into the wheel wells, as they kind of stopped right at the edges of the wheel wells, and I think that's correct, but I'm not 100% certain. But it still looks good, so I didn't really want to mess with it after that. Also, the front lip in this picture has not been painted yet. It's not that the decal was too short, it's that that front lip is actually painted black. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this little look back at one of my pre-YouTube builds of the 1/43rd scale dole pineapple fiero imsa race car. Okay guys, I'll see you on the next one.